Okay. All right. So welcome. This is the Morris Town Hall Parent Presentation. I'm the
Bienvenidos a esta
principal,
presentación
Mr.
para,
Wally,
para los padres. Este es el señor Wally, el director escolar.
and I am joined with two of my colleagues,
Estoy aquí con señor Afonso y señora Richardson.
Mrs. Alfonso already introduced them. Yes, it's Miss
Sí.
Alfonso, one of our E&L teachers, and Mrs. Richardson, our first grade teacher and first grade team leader.
So, señora Richardson es la directora del primer grado, encargada de los maestros del primer grado. Yo soy la maestra que enseña inglés como segundo idioma.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a presentation. It's going to be in English from me, and Miss Alfonso is going to speak in Spanish for those who want it in Spanish.
Presentación bilingüe en inglés y español. So, simultáneamente voy a hablar al mismo tiempo que el señor Wally.
And what we're going to do in a moment is we are going to enable the Spanish piece so that you can hear it mostly in Spanish and hear me only a little bit if you want to listen in Spanish.
Dentro de unos momentos, señor Wally va a hablar en inglés y al mismo tiempo yo voy a hablar en español. So vamos a modificar la presentación para oír la presentación 80-20% en español.
All right, so just give me a moment, Miss Alfonso, because I'm not seeing the, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a second. I'm not seeing the interpretation feature. Here it is. All right, so I'm going to try that right now. So if you want to listen in Spanish, there is a button at the bottom right of your screen that says interpretation, and you can hit that to hear Spanish in a moment. I'll let you translate that, Benita, before I.
Sure. So debajo de la presentación hay un lugar que usted puede clicar que dije para oír la presentación en español. Tiene que procurar, dije, para traducir para español. Si ustedes tienen dificultad, pueden indicar en el chat. I asked to identify in chat if they're having a hard time.
Okay. And in the chat, let's see if I can actually make you also a co-host. So I just made you a co-host as well.
Yes.
You can write to Miss Alfonso if you want to write in Spanish in the chat. It gives you a choice of who to write to. Or you can write to Miss Richardson if you want to write in English for any questions. We ask for those questions to happen at the end.
Okay, so en el fin de la presentación o durante la presentación, si ustedes tienen cualquier pregunta, pueden escribir su pregunta en español en el lugar que dije chat, que está en el lado derecho. Puede preguntar a señora Richardson en inglés o puede preguntar a mí en español, que yo soy señora Alfonso.
Okay, so one more time, and I'm going to send Miss Alfonso into more of the Spanish mode. If you want to hit the button that says interpretation on the bottom of your screen, that will give you the Spanish translation. Miss Alfonso, you want to just share that one more time?
Sure, so abajo de la presentación hay un lugar que usted puede clicar que dije para traducir, que dije interpretación. Usted tiene que clicar y puede oír la presentación en español.
All right, I'm going to start that now. Let's see if it works. Here we go. All right, Miss Alfonso. All right, perfect. Okay, so from here on out, I'm going to speak in English. Miss Alfonso will speak simultaneously in Spanish. And again, if you want to listen in Spanish, you can hit that interpretation button and you will hear her translating me at the same time. All right, so I'm going to go back into my presentation. All right, here we go. So welcome. If you haven't met me, I'm Mr. Wally, the principal. I encourage you to reach out to me. I am normally always at morning arrival, so you might run into me there. I try to make it a point to introduce myself to parents. I'm around in the building, so the students will definitely see me. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me through email. You can call the main office, and I'm available to speak through either of those ways. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Why? Oh, there we go. Hold on. Did it go too fast? Here we go. Okay. So here's a picture of us. We're a fun group. We like to have a good time. We like to make sure the students have a fun time at school. The picture on the left is from us a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, I believe, from Halloween, because I mean, if you're in Sleepy Hollow, you gotta celebrate Halloween. So that's us as a staff. We like to have fun. We like to be silly. It is a first and second grade building, and so your kids will have a great time learning, and that just kind of gives you a little glimpse at us. The one to the right is a social function we had. We had a holiday party where a staff that is a pretty veteran staff. Most of our teachers have been in the building for 15 to 20 years, which is nice because they have a lot of knowledge. They have a lot of knowledge of the community. Some of your children may have had them before. And it's a nice group of members that really work closely together. So that's just a little bit about us and our school. Okay. So the point of tonight's meeting really is to cover a couple different things. And these are our presentation topics for tonight. The first thing we're going to talk about is general safety protocols. Then we're going to talk about arrival and dismissal procedures. So for those of you who were here last year, this is a little bit of a review. But if you're coming from John Paulding, we have totally different arrival and dismissal procedures. So you're definitely going to want to listen to those. We're also going to talk about the student schedule, which this year is super easy because it's 5 days a week in person. That's what we're doing. So everybody has the same schedule. We are going to talk a little bit about the student experience at Morse. We're going to talk about curriculum and assessment considerations for this year, recognizing the challenges that took place last year. And then just for you all to note, if you have a pen, pick it up, write that down. First day of school is September 9th, and our back to school night is Tuesday, September 14th, and it will be virtual on Zoom, or actually Google Meet for the teachers. And that's going to be at 6:30, and I will be sending out a master list of all the links for the teachers, so you can go to your homeroom, your child's homeroom teacher, but they'll also probably send that out as well. And Ms. Alfonso, I'm just going to wait until I see you stop talking so I don't go before you're done. All right. All right, so we're going to talk first about general safety protocols. And many of these safety protocols are similar to last year. We base our safety protocols on the CDC's guidance, as well as consultation with the Westchester County Department of Health and the New York State Department of Education. First thing to know is students and staff will be wearing masks during the day, and the students will have mask breaks. It'll be dependent more on the teacher, but all students can get mask breaks either through a structured time or by asking for permission to get a mask break. More of that information can be shared with you at your back to school night, but all of our staff offer it in a variety of ways, both through like, okay, this is a snack time, and through sometimes just saying, if you ever need a mask break, raise your hand. You can either take it in the class, you can go out in the hallway and take it. There's a variety of ways that we offer students mask breaks. We do ask that masks do not have any kind of holes or vents on the face. That is in accordance with CDC's recommended face masks. If your child comes to school and doesn't have an appropriate mask, or may forget their mask, and that happens, don't worry, we have some at school. We all have disposable masks that we provide kids if they need a mask that they may have forgotten they didn't have it, or their mask is not up to our guidelines, then we can give them one. Students should have a mask before boarding the bus, wear a mask on the bus, and the bus will be having some windows cracked during good weather. During cold weather, you might see the windows closed, but as I learned last year, that's because of the way the buses have ventilation that comes in from the outside into the bus itself. It's constantly bringing new air in, and so they're also having ventilation in the buses. What is new this year is there will not be a temperature check. So if you were used to last year giving your child a temperature check or having a temperature check done by the bus monitor before they got on the bus, or before you entered the school, you saw Nurse Lisa out there doing a temperature check on the forehead of your child, that will not be happening this year. They did a review of their data, and I think it was something like 300,000 temperature checks we performed, and it really did not screen or prevent anybody from entering our building. But we are continuing with the health attestation, and that's that either QR code you've seen or it's a hyperlink, and you click on that and it just asks you if your child has any symptoms. If they do, any of the symptoms on that sheet, you click it and it'll tell you if the student can come to school or not. If you get something like a code that says your student cannot come to school, you may call the school nurse to ask more about that. Or you can, call our main office, but that has to be completed each day. And we do ask that to be completed before you get on the bus. And lastly, we are maintaining social distancing protocols throughout the school day. I'll get into more of the specifics, but basically it's either 6 feet of distance, and that's optimal. For sitting in the classroom, is going to be this year, and it was this year, it was this way last year at the end of the year, 3 feet of distance. What's new this year is there are no barriers. We do not have to use barriers. I know last year students had some trouble seeing through the barriers, so that is nice. My own daughter came home and said, I can't see the board because of the barrier. So that is kind of helpful not to have that this year. There was a lot of research on it and kind of determining it wasn't really preventing a lot. So that was some of the thought behind not having the barriers, while still having the mask and the 3 feet distance for sitting. All right. Again, you will see, or your children will see, signage in our buildings. There is line markers on our hallway to keep students to the right and the left. There is also markings to mark 6 feet distance so that students can kind of keep an eye on it, and teachers can keep an eye on it about keeping them 6 feet as they can. That's optimal. Doesn't mean it always has to be that way, but that's optimal. And again, the signage is throughout our building to share that message of making sure you wear a mask, keep distance, stay on the correct parts of the hallway, and also make sure you're thinking about how you're feeling. And if you're not feeling well, letting your teacher know so we can send you to the nurse. And here's some more signage. We are going to have continual student hand washing. So we're going to make sure that continues. That is the preferred method. When we can't do hand washing, we do use hand sanitizer. And again, this is just some more signage that talks about, what we're trying to encourage kids to do. All right, some more general safety protocols. Students will sit 3 feet apart from each other, hand washing breaks. We're continuing our cleaning by custodians, and they will be doing that daily throughout the day on touch points. Touch points are hand railings, high traffic areas where our kids' hands may go. And so they're cleaning those throughout the day with appropriate safe chemicals. And then our teachers, and the joy of having primary classrooms is that our teachers do teach and will teach our kids explicitly the protocols for washing their hands when using the bathroom, and how to air dry so that you can get your hands nice and dry and not necessarily have to touch different things and use communal type of things. So that is, something that students will be taught and encouraged to do. And then to promote increased ventilation, and this happened last year as well, teachers have their windows open and they are leaving their classroom doors open to increase ventilation. And so we're keeping that going through this year. All right. We also have a designated quarantine room for students who develop symptoms at school. We also ask that parents or caregivers have masks on and follow social distancing protocols. So I'm actually going to adjust that slide because based on the CDC guidance, you don't actually have to wear a mask while outside, that is. You certainly can if you want. When you come on our grounds, and you'll see our arrival dismissal procedure, it is where we do have quite a few people on our grounds, so that's up to you. It's not mandatory, but certainly if you, if you or any of our students were to enter any of our spaces, you would have to have those masks on. Right now, visitors are not being allowed in our buildings, just as a preventative measure. But again, you are welcome to wear a mask while on our grounds if you'd like to. All right, let's talk about our arrival dismissal procedures, which are far superior to JP. Maureen Barnett didn't hear that. This is a little joke. All right, so arrival procedure for students bus. We do a mask check from the monitor. We talked about social distancing. We do have a separate entrance for walkers and busing students, and I'll show you that in a moment on our map. And students go directly to their classrooms to maximize social distancing. So if you had a student in Morse like 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, you're familiar with, we used to have all first graders go to the auditorium, all second graders go to the gym. We have changed that where kids go directly to their class to maximize that social distancing. All right, so, oops, I went too far. No, I didn't, I went backwards. Oh, let me go back. Don't worry, Benita, you don't have to go that fast. All right, so this is, part of it is, let me move that, perfect, there we go, okay. So walkers or car drop off. Walkers, we talked about, will be assessed for a mask at the entrance. And then, so what happens is you line up right in this yellow space, and I'll show this in a moment. And you line up right in front of our main entrance. You can come on site. Probably a lot of parents come around maybe 7:45 to 7:50. We don't let kids in until 7:55. But that's when you can, again, you can start to line up outside at that point, waiting for the 7:55 time to come in. We'll let you know when the kids can come in. Our preferred method, if you're going to not actually physically walk on our campus or walk to our campus, is to park off site and then walk on our campus. Car drop off is challenging. We are in the middle of Sleepy Hollow. We don't have a ton of space. And with our busing coming on our campus, we have to hold off any cars until all of our buses have come on the campus. So if you are going to drive on, you will have to wait until 8:10 and then come on at that time. Once again, students are allowed to come in the building starting at 7:55. So it is really the preferred method to park off site and walk on, or simply just walk to school or take our buses. If you must drive onto our campus, you will have to wait until 8 a.m. or 8:10 a.m. All right, so here's the diagram. You can see there's a walker car drop off. That's our front stairs. Those yellow lines are where your students will line up. And you'll see we have cones that cone all this off. There is a separate bus entrance. Don't worry, we handle all that for our busing students. If you are coming onto the parking lot with your car, it's at 8:10 that we let you on, and you exit out the back of, which is really called Carmody Way. And somebody will meet you at your car and they'll walk your child to the entrance. All right, dismissal procedures. Students are going to be dismissed from their classroom teacher And again, if you were here years ago, this is a little bit of a switch. It's a little bit nicer. The classroom teacher dismisses every one of their kids. So what we do is we put the busing students on first, and then the classroom teachers take the remaining students to either what is called our green field, and I'll show you that in a moment, or our flagpole area. Green field is first grade, flagpole is second grade. And then lastly, what happens if it's bad weather? Well, in light rain, we do go outside. So I suggest that parents provide their children with either a raincoat on days it's going to rain or an umbrella. Our dismissal goes very quickly. It's probably 5 minutes at the most that walkers are outside. So we try to do it on all days that we can. And however, if it's really, really heavy rains or lightning and thunder, we do have a bad weather dismissal plan, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But do know that if it's going to be light rain, we will be outside for our dismissal. So here's how dismissal works. Notice the big red box, do not enter parking lot. So there is no pickup option for cars at dismissal. That is different than JP. We do not offer a car pickup option, and that's historically been how it's been here. Even though there is a little on-site car drop-off exit thing, that is a mistake. So you're not able to come onto the parking lot. You will have to park off-site and come on. Parents come into the gate from Beekman Avenue, and then they either go to the green field to pick up their first grade walker, or they go to the flagpole area to pick up their second grade walker. You will see your teacher waiting with your children. And if you're thinking, well, how will I know what my teacher looks like on the first day or first 2 days? They will have a sign that says their name, so you can find them. And then after that, you'll know them by face. Our buses are in the circle. We put the students on the buses. They leave the lot every day, pretty much right on time at 2:55. And again, we have our walker pickup, which is in our playground area, Greenfield first grade, flagpole second grade. And just to, my co-host is so great, sending me a quick text to remind me, walker pickup is 2:45. So bus dismissal means those buses are pulling off the lot at 2:55. If you are picking your child up who is a walker, you may show up at 2:45 is when we allow parents into the area to pick up their children. And you have until about 2:55 to pick up your child. So anywhere between 2:45 and 2:55, but 2:45 parents will be entering the pickup area. All right, this is our inclement weather walker dismissal. We used it about 3 times last year. Most of the time we're not going to use it, but if it's ever a lightning and thunder hazard, a high winds hazard, I do not do our outdoor dismissal under those situations. Heavy rains, we will not do outdoor dismissal. We'll do this inclement weather walker dismissal. This is only if your child is going to be a walker. If it's busing, it's normal, and they'll still leave by 2:55. I will let parents know via the Remind app, the same way you get notified of snow cancellations and things like that. You would get a text from me that says we are doing an inclement weather dismissal today. What that means is you would go where Mechanical Street is, you'd enter there, and there's actually an entrance there. It's kind of like a little secret entrance. You might not know that. There are stairs. You can come up that way. And then if you're picking up a second grade student, you follow those yellow arrows because there's a door there, and we'll exit your second grader for you. We'll ask you your child's name and teacher, and then we will escort the child to you. If you need to also pick up a first grader, then you would follow the yellow arrows around to the red again, around by the cafeteria door. We will again ask you your child's name and teacher. We will give them to you from the cafeteria, and you can exit the same way where you go through the playground area and go out the Beekman sidewalk area. Okay, so it's going to be familiar to you because during a normal walker dismissal, you enter the Beekman gates And for inclement weather, you will exit the Beekman gates. If you don't need to pick up a second grader, you obviously just follow the red arrows and go right to the first grader. But that was the first year we did it last year. It worked fairly well. We've made some adjustments. There was, it took us a little bit to kind of get used to it and refine it, but we're in good shape. All right, student schedule. Wow, this one's a good one this year. All students will be in person 5 days per week, and that's pretty much it. Our school day starts at 7:55. Buses depart the parking lot at 2:55, and if you're a walker, you will be reunified with your child starting at 2:45. All right, so a little bit about school life, and under these COVID times, the common questions are normally around lunch, recess, and specials. So lunch will be outdoors when we can. So we have built an amazing courtyard. So COVID has brought some silver linings in that we were forced to try to eat outside, and we discovered al fresco dining is the way to go. So we are utilizing our courtyard as much as we can. When it is either inclement weather or it gets too cold, we will be in our classroom and we will be maintaining 6 feet distance. That means for most classes, half the class may have to eat out in the hallway and half the class will eat at a desk. We did this last year. It seemed to work very well. And that will be our situation for lunch. For snack, again, we will maintain a 6 feet distance. Teachers have the option to eat snack in the class or utilize the courtyard. We do try to have snack time be a short time, about 9 minutes or less, just because we are following CDC guidance on the exposure time. If we have students with masks off at a distance of greater than 6 feet for more than 9 minutes, meaning entering the 10th minute, that requires us to quarantine the entire room if somebody tests positive for the COVID-19 virus. So we do try to make sure all of our protocols minimize the number of students who would be exposed and also quarantine if there was a positive case. For recess, students will be playing with their own class. We won't be commingling classes for that. So they'll have their own space. They will be able to play outside per the CDC guidance. They are not required to wear masks right now. Again, all that is subject to change. We do follow the most recent and current guidance, but right now they will be able to play recess with their class without masks. Specials will be in their own specials classroom. So last year we started with keeping the specials in the teacher's classroom, the homeroom's classroom, but we did eventually move back to the music class, the art class, and the PE class. So we are doing that once again, where the specials, they will travel to the specials classroom and they will learn there. Again, we still follow the same guidance for social distancing and all of those safety protocols. All right. Once again, the magic number is 3 feet of space between students when in a classroom. Okay, the optimal or the best case scenario is 6 feet, but we have to have a minimum of 3 feet. Students will also wear masks. Again, I said that throughout the day when they're in the building, they have to have masks, but they will be given mask breaks. All right, here's an example of a classroom. Once again, it's a classroom setup. It is not the only classroom setup. But again, students are 3 feet away. Think of a yardstick. That is the distance that students have to maintain. All right, curriculum considerations. So students will be assessed in the beginning of the year to determine their strengths and weaknesses. We do that a variety of ways. We have some formal assessments. So we'll do reading one-on-one with a student, and we give them what's called a running record, where we have them read a text and we watch how they read. We look for what they're doing correctly, what strategies they're using correctly, as well as strategies they haven't learned yet. And that allows us to know what to teach them and what books to place them in. Um, you might think of it as the technical term is the reading level. Okay. We also have formal math assessments that we use, but also teachers do other things that are called informal assessments, just through teaching, through calling on students, through doing different types of lessons and activities. We also get an idea of what students need to learn as well as what they have mastered. And teachers are taking notes on different students to make sure they can record that information. We had a lot of experience last year dealing with students who had different learning gaps as well as students who had different strengths. And we were able to make some curriculum adjustments last year. And once again, we have made some adjustments based on the information we got from our kindergarten teachers last year, our first grade teachers this year, if those kids are going into second grade. And we will make curriculum adjustments throughout the year. So our curriculum is a living, breathing type of document that we make those adjustments based on the students in front of us. All right, and again, you will probably, hear and see, or you won't see necessarily, but you might hear a little bit about your students working in small groups, also sometimes one-on-one with a teacher, as well as whole group lessons. We are going to continue a focus on social emotional learning because we want to make sure our students feel connected to our school, the teacher, and their peers. And so we have some district created lessons. We also do a lot of collaboration with our school psychologist, our social worker. Both of those provide school-wide SEL support. That's in the form of additional lessons that they do for all classes. Those may be virtual lessons they've created. Sometimes they come into a class. And then, of course, we do individual support for students based on what they need. It might be a group of students or it might be one-on-one, depending on whatever a student needs for their support. All of our staff has also been receiving training on trauma-informed teaching strategies and practices to support all of our students. Again, knowing COVID has brought on a lot of trauma for many of our families. All right, back to school night and the first day of school. So, what are you going to see at back to school night? You're going to meet the teacher virtually. We are back in that virtual situation, kind of like tonight. So your teacher will be on a Google Meet. She'll give you a PowerPoint, kind of like this, talk to you about the curriculum, what to expect, probably learn a little bit about some of the routines. You'll get a glimpse at what your child's day looks like, what they're learning. You might probably see some pictures of the classroom. And then our first day of school is once again September 9th. So that is next Thursday. We're really excited to have kids back in the building. All of us, that's what we went to school for, was we wanted to work with kids. We love that energy, and we're really looking forward to having that energy back in the building and meeting our new students this year. All right, so as I've said before, if you have any questions, you can always call our main office number. We have wonderful secretaries. We have Ursula and Evelyn. Evelyn is a Spanish-speaking secretary, so if you're more comfortable speaking in Spanish, feel free to call and speak in Spanish, and we'll make sure that you can speak in Spanish to Evelyn, and she can get all information to you or to me. And you can email me at my email address. And although I don't speak Spanish, I mean, I try, you can write in Spanish and I can also translate it so that I can communicate back with you. Or I will talk with Evelyn so that I can make sure I can contact you and speak with her to you. So at this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to ask if you want to write any questions to Tanya, Mrs. Richardson, or to Miss Alfonso if you want to write in Spanish. And then they will ask me the questions and I will answer them. And I'm actually going to stop Benita from her separate translation area. And so everybody's going to be back together. And Miss Alfonso will be also translating the questions so everybody can hear the same thing. So let me just do that right now. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Hold on, cancel. High stakes here. I almost ended the meeting for everybody. That wouldn't have been good. Let's see here, manage, and that. All right, Miss Alfonso, you back?
I'm back.
Yes, all right.
I do have a question in Spanish, so I'll read it in Spanish and then I'll say it in English.
Sure, go ahead, yep.
Okay, so it's from Miss Mora, and she says, buenas noches, ¿puede repetirme los horarios de entrada y salida para los que llevan los hijos caminando? So she says, please, can you repeat the times, the entrance times and the exit time for those that are walkers?
Yes, and I'm gonna see if I can write it to everyone.
Okay. So el director va a escribir la respuesta en el chat.
I'm going to say arrival time is 7:55 a.m.
Okay, so la llegada tienen que estar aquí a las 7:55 de la mañana.
Dismissal for walkers.
Y los niños que caminan para
2:45
casa
p.m.
a las 2:45.
Buses leave the lot at 2:55.
Y los autobuses salen a las 2:55.
And we do have for 2-hour delays and early dismissals. That information is on our website. If you go to our WL Morse website, it is there for all of those different times.
So, en caso de retraso, por causa de tempestad o nieve o una cosa así como hoy, como nosotros, como 2 horas de retraso, ustedes pueden averiguar en el website. Y procurar, normalmente está mismo en la frente que hoy hace un retraso y dije en la página de Morse, dije cuando los niños tienen que entrar.
All right, thank you, Miss Alfonso. Do you want to answer any more? Or do you ask any more, or do you want Mrs. Richardson to go?
That's all I have.
Okay.
We'll go back and forth if you have another one.
Great.
One question, what will be the protocol if a child has to get picked up early, like say if they're sick? And will you be sending home a copy of the dismissal, the whole diagram that you sent, so that parents can look that over again?
So the last thing you said, the diagram should have been sent home in the mailer. So check the mailer that you got. And if you don't see that, I can definitely send it again. I could definitely send it via email, or I can definitely give that to you. But I did try to send that diagram. I thought so, but I could be mistaken. So I'll double check that. When I get back to school, I'll check, because we have our whole entire packet that we sent out. And I know I sent out arrival dismissal directions, but maybe it didn't come with that nice handy dandy map. So I can definitely send it out. So Mrs. Richardson, you can remind me to do that and I will do it. And then what was the first part again?
Protocol, what's the protocol for being sick? And then I'll
yes. Okay, so the nurse will call the parent or caregiver, and then we'll have a conversation. If you need to pick up the student, then you can come to the front office or the main office. You can come right up those front entrance, and we'll have you go right to the nurse's office. So we let visitors into the nurse's office, because unlike John Paulding, our nurse's office is literally probably 6 steps in to the front. We have a little bit of what I would call like a security rotunda or vestibule or whatever you want to call it. And so really it's not too far from the main entrance. So that's what we would do. You would be able to come in and pick up your child if necessary. And it'll just be the nurse would call you and be on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, so I'm going to translate. So un padre preguntó ¿Cuál es el protocolo en caso mi hijo o hija está enferma? So, en caso que esto se pasa, usted tiene la oportunidad de llamar, la enfermera va a llamar a su casa a decir que su hijo o hija está enfermo. Usted puede recoger su hijo de la enfermera y usted puede llevarlo para casa. La otra pregunta es que el señor Wally envió esto, por tanto usted tiene que averiguar si está en el paquete que fue enviado la semana pasada. Pueden averiguar y si no tiene pueden mandar un correo electrónico al señor Wally y nosotros vamos a enviar esa información a usted.
Okay, I'm going to ask a couple or answer a couple of questions that I got, even though just a reminder, send them to Mrs. Richardson if you're writing them in English and to Mrs. Alfonso if you're writing them in Spanish. But I had a question about dismissal for after school programs. So right now we're not running a lot of after school programs, but we are going to be having an after school program which is going to be academic based. It's based on need, kids who need additional support. They would go right to that after school program. If you have a child in like an after school program that's at a different site, Sleepy Hollow Rec, JCC, one of those, say, YMCA, they will either go on bus transportation to that site or Life Center, let's say, or they will go directly to that provider. So if we had an after school program at our site, they would go right there. If there's an off-site after school program, they would go on the bus transportation to that.
Okay. So, la pregunta fue, ¿habrá programas después de la escuela? ¿Cómo se llama? After school. So, en este momento nosotros no tenemos programas de after school, pero habrá un programa después de la escuela que será en la escuela Morse, pero esto es para soportar los niños que necesitan más soporte académico. Pero sus niños se van a otro programa como Life Center. Es una parte diferente, so habrá autobús que los niños tienen que ir a ese lugar, ¿ok? So, si ustedes quieren que ellos participen, ustedes tienen que comunicarse con ellos, pero el programa de after school, de académico, no está en empezar ahorita, pero va a empezar.
All right, I got another question here. And so Mrs. Richardson, she's gotten more efficient. She's just texting me the questions. I have a question here about free lunch again. So is it free lunch again? If you remember last year, the federal government offered free lunch and breakfast to all parents. I experienced this as well as a parent who doesn't typically qualify for free lunch or breakfast, but my daughter's school informed us they would no longer be taking money last year, because it was free for the federal government. So once again, yes, I do believe that lunch and breakfast is free. I'll be honest with you, I'm not super versed in terms of the ins and outs of our lunch program, because we do a lot of that with another, it's not another vendor, but it is kind of a vendor. So I would say you can expect that it is free again, but just keep an eye out in case you need to fill anything out. Like I had a parent call and just say, I got a form for free and reduced lunch. Do I need to fill it out? Yes, please fill all those forms, because we use that information for other things. We get grants and things like that for that information. But I do believe, yes, it is free again. You can reach out to our lunch service provider and just ask them if you need to add any money, or they'll be able to tell you that no, you do not. I can look into it a little bit closer, but I do know it is free for students again for this year.
So, la pregunta fue si habrá el almuerzo gratis, sí, como el año pasado, y este año el gobierno está a dar comida de gratis otra vez dentro de la escuela. So, por tanto, no tiene que pagar, tienen el derecho de recibir el almuerzo gratis.
Okay, next question is, will students be given a Chromebook in the event that they have to quarantine? Students will be given a Chromebook regardless. So they're going to get a Chromebook on the first day of school. They're going to bring it back and forth to school, much like last year. I am aware that our kids are smaller and that their backpacks carry a lot of things. However, we have all experienced how a student can be quarantined when you're at home. You get a call at 6 o'clock at night, your student is now quarantined for the next 14 days. And you may not have that ability to go back to the school and get the Chromebook. So we do ask that our students take their Chromebooks back and forth. And in the event that you need to use it because a student's quarantined or the class is quarantined, you would then have it.
Okay. So la pregunta es si los niños van a recibir una computadora. Claro, todos los niños van a recibir una computadora y claro, sabemos que las mochilas van a estar bastante pesadas para llevar la mochila para atrás y para frente. So, los niños tienen que llevar para casa y para la escuela todos los días. So my question that I received is in Spanish.
Oh, yes. Excellent.
I will read it in Spanish. So, buenas noches. Quisiera saber para el primer día de clases cómo los estudiantes de primer grado serán dirigidos a sus respectivas aulas. Y para los útiles escolares, ¿se va a haber un día determinado o tendremos que enviar los materiales con ellos el primer día de clase? So it's a two-folded question. So the parent would like to know how will they go to their classroom on the first day of school? Okay. The second question is, will we have the opportunity to send the materials with them on the first day of school, or is there a designated day?
Okay, so those are two questions. I'll answer the first one and then I'll answer the second one so that it can be totally understood. On the first day of school, if your child is a walker, they're going to line up, but you just come to the front of the building and you'll see we're going to have staff directing you. There will be 2 or 3 or 4 lines actually, and we're going to have all the kids spaced out. And then the staff will start to allow the kids to come into the building. Parents will not come into the building with the students. We are going to have staff escorting small lines of students throughout the building and literally dropping them off at their classroom. We're going to do that for the first 2 days. We did it last year. It worked really well. And it's really low stress because once the kids come in with us, they know we're going to treat them nicely and they don't have to worry about what's going on, and we're going to drop them right off to their class. If your child takes the bus, same thing. We're going to have staff that walk them off the bus in small groups and drop them right to their class. We're going to walk them right through the building and drop them off. So that is what the first day looks like. And then I'll answer the piece about supplies.
Okay. So, en el primer día de la escuela, los niños que van a caminar para la escuela y igualmente que los niños salgan del autobús, habrá una maestra que van a recoger los niños. Ellos van a salir del autobús o están alineados afuera de la escuela, y habrá una maestra que van a recoger un grupo de niños que van a la clase y van a dejarlo propiamente en cada clase. Nosotros vamos a hacer eso por 2 días, ¿ok? Hacemos eso el año pasado y fue un gran suceso.
The next question is about supplies. So historically, we have had a day where parents can drop off supplies ahead of time. This year, we're not going to have that opportunity. But what I can tell you is I've already talked to the staff about this. So if you have a lot of supplies for your kids to bring in and you feel like it's too much for them to carry, you can send those supplies in their backpack over multiple days. So you might send some on Thursday, some on Friday, some on Monday. And don't worry, none of the kids will, be out of luck if they don't have their scissors on the first day. Once again, I recognize it would be nice to have this opportunity to drop it off ahead of time, but just based on the guidance that I got from central office, that wasn't an option this year. So we are going to allow students to bring those materials in across multiple days. They can bring it in their backpack or they can carry it in front of them if they want.
Okay. So los útiles, los niños no necesitan de traer todo en un día. Puede dividir los útiles sobre 2 días o 3 días. pueden traer un poquito el jueves, un poquito el viernes, un poquito el lunes. No se preocupen si no tienen todo en el mismo día. Nosotros vamos a ayudar a sus niños, pero pueden dividir los útiles durante los 3 días para traer a la escuela. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to answer a couple COVID related questions. I'm getting a kind of a couple of those ones that are all related. So I'll just answer them together. I'll try to be less wordy for you, Mrs. Alfonso.
Okay.
First question is, what happened to the barriers? We are not using barriers this year. I did kind of mention that in my presentation, but we are not doing that. They are no longer installed in the classroom, and that is based on guidance and research. The next question was about if a student tests positive, what is the protocol? The protocol is we're going to do contact tracing like we did last year, which means I have to go through and see, how long was the student's mask off for, who were they around, and all of that factors into who has to be identified as a student that will now be quarantined. Okay, and then you get a call or you get a robocall from our district to let you know that you're going to get a letter that says your child is quarantined for a certain period of time, and you may get contacted by the Department of Health for contact tracing. Okay, and then the last question, although it won't be the last one on COVID.
Let me translate that one.
All right, go ahead. I'll try to remember the third one. Go ahead.
Okay, so había alguien que quería preguntar sobre los divisores, la parte plástica que nosotros dividimos entre los niños. So, él sí dice que nosotros no necesitamos de utilizarlos, por tanto nosotros no vamos a utilizar. Y también no hay bastante información como esto protegía a los niños. La otra parte es en caso que hay un niño que tiene el COVID, que tiene el examen de positivo, cuál es el protocolo. Por tanto, si eso se pasa, el director tiene que saber cuánto tiempo el niño tenía la máscara fuera, quién estaba cerca del niño. Y claro, el director tiene que contactar todo lo director escolar de Tarrytown, y después tenemos que reportar al CDC. Hay alguien va a contactar a usted y hacer unas preguntas sobre su hijo o hija, quién está enfermo o quién está positivo.
All right, and the last question that I got in this kind of package of 3 was if a child has a cold, no fever, and tests negative, I'm assuming negative for COVID, can they go to school? Are PCRs the only acceptable tests? So PCRs are the preferred test at this point. They're the most reliable. I would ask you to reach out to Scott Dorn, who is our coordinator of all COVID protocols, to ask him a specific question about another test you'd like to use, because I would have to know the other test you're referring to before I could say it would be accepted. And then in terms of if your child has a cold, no fever, and tests negative for COVID, can they come to school? I guess technically yes, because they do not have COVID. But I would say if your child has a cold, you may not want to send them to school, because they're probably not feeling great and they're probably not going to be able to learn. And of course, we don't really want to get the rest of our staff and our students sick. We definitely want our staff to be in good condition and top shape. So I would ask that you let your child probably stay home and recover rather than send them to school.
Okay. So la otra pregunta fue si su niño tiene si no se siente bien, si tiene fiebre o está expirando un poquito y está negativo, ¿pueden venir a la escuela? Sí, pueden venir a la escuela porque está negativo. Pero si sus niños no se sienten bien, están expirando o no tienen fiebre, si no se sienten bien, es mejor que sus niños se queden en casa, porque claro, nosotros no queremos infectar otras personas y también sus niños no se sienten bien y es mejor que ellos se queden en casa para recuperar. ¿Okay? La otra pregunta es, si el examen de PCR es el único examen aceptable, nosotros vamos a averiguar con el director encargado sobre esto, que es el señor Dorn, si el PCR es el único o si hay otro examen que su niño puede tomar para averiguar que ello está negativo.
All right, so we are approaching 8:30, and I'm sure many of you are getting kind of ready to wind down for bed. And if you're not, I'm jealous because I'm exhausted. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer a couple more questions, and I try to, in these information sessions, answer the questions that I think are like broad questions for everybody. And if you have questions that are more specific to you, your personal concerns or your personal situation, I highly encourage you to email me. And that's at twally@tufsd.org. That's twally@tufsd.org. And I will respond to you and your more specific question. But a couple questions here that I want to speak to. First one is, I'm just kind of scrolling here. I think it's a little bit around Chromebooks. So let me expand on that. So some people are kind of asking, why does my child need to bring home a Chromebook just in case they get quarantined? Well, first thing is that is a big deal because you could have to be home for a long period of time and all the instruction could be live streamed. But beyond that, we actually have a couple of resources that your kids may want to use even if they're not quarantined and they're coming to school. First thing that we do have is we do have a virtual library that kids can use. Okay, it's called MyOn. Your children may have experienced it at JP, but we utilize it a lot here at Morse, and it's access to 10,000 books. So it's a really amazing resource. It's a game changer because, as you know, some families can afford to have books in their home, some cannot. And for our young readers, they typically may go through reading 10 books in an hour, because they're reading these little short books. So having a volume of books is really important. So that's one thing. We also do have some other like math games and things that kind of can teach kids some fact fluency and other things. Teachers use Google Classroom, so kids may want to utilize that to check out anchor charts or resources that they have from the classroom. So the Chromebook is not just for quarantine. There are other things that the kids can utilize with that.
So la pregunta fue, ¿por qué es necesario que los niños tienen que utilizar el Chromebook todos los días de la escuela para casa y de regreso otra vez? So, por tanto, es importante que ellos lleven la computadora todos los días para la escuela y para casa porque nunca se sabe, podemos estar en casa por un gran periodo de tiempo. La segunda cosa es el Chromebook tiene bastante recursos que los niños pueden utilizar que la maestra enseñó durante el día. Por ejemplo, hay MyOn, que es un recurso que los niños pueden utilizar para leer los libros. Y claro, hay muchos libros que ellos pueden leer. Y también juegos de matemática, el Google Classroom, que es un lugar que los niños pueden buscar información y demostrar a usted lo necesitan para utilizar para la tarea de casa. So, esa es la razón.
I have a question about the ventilation in the building. So I'll mention that. And there's a couple of questions that I saw about that. One is, can you speak to it? So there is different types of ventilation in our building. Our building was built in 1909. So it is a nice historical building. So in certain parts of it, it's very old school. And so what we do to increase ventilation, and really what's the best thing to do in any building, is to have a lot of open air, a lot of constant air in, constant air out. And so we utilize our windows. We have our windows open as much as we can. All of our classrooms do have air conditioner units that can also bring in cool air, that can also bring in air if we want to use the fan mode. In our bathrooms, we have ventilation in our bathrooms. Some of our bathrooms have been renovated and installed ventilation in it. For further questions, more specific and technical questions about our ventilation, I would encourage you to reach out to Tony Demand, our Director of Facilities, and he is somebody who's versed in that. And before you translate, Benita, I'm just gonna add one more thing. I did have a question about getting cold in the winter. Do kids need to wear gloves in class? No, don't worry, it doesn't get that cold. We do adjust the windows to make sure it's warm. And again, being in a 1909 building, we have those old school radiators that kick off a lot of heat, and it keeps our rooms nice and toasty. And if you're on the third floor, I like to joke that that is kind of like the Florida wing, because it gets very hot up there. So even prior to COVID, our teachers would have our windows open up there. So that's a little bit about our ventilation.
Okay, so había una pregunta sobre la ventilación en la escuela. Como muchos de ustedes no saben, nuestro edificio fue construido en 1909. Es muy antigua, claro. So hay varias maneras de tener la ventilación en la escuela. Siempre tenemos las ventanas abiertas. Claro, tenemos aire acondicionado, y hay baños nuevos también que hay ventilación. También, si ustedes tienen más preguntas específicas que quieren saber, el señor Tony Demand es el encargado de las facilidades de la escuela de Tarrytown, todas las escuelas, usted puede contactar a él. También alguien quería saber si los niños necesitan guantes durante el invierno para trabajar bien en la escuela. La respuesta es no, que nosotros vamos a tener las ventanas ajustadas para controlar el aire para entrar durante el tiempo del invierno.
All right, so I'm going to wrap up our meeting. I'm just going to close with a couple culminating pieces of information. One, this meeting is being recorded. I did have a question about that, so it is going to be recorded. So if you wanted to watch this again because you were confused about a part, or you missed it, or your friends said they really wish they could attend this and they couldn't, it will be available. It'll probably be available and posted on it will definitely be posted on our website, our school website. But it won't be posted until Thursday when we return, okay? Because I won't be able to get our tech people to take this download and do the tech stuff to get it up on the website. So it'll be available then. I did have a couple questions that were more specific to whoever is teaching their child. So I did have some questions about snack. I had some questions about how often Chromebooks will be used for instruction in the classroom. Those are all really more kind of teacher specific questions. And so I would say back to school night might answer that. You can always send your teacher a specific email asking a question, and hopefully that will be able to answer your question. And of course, you can always email me and I will try to get back to you. I always try to get back to parents if I can within 24 hours. And I think that's it. I look forward to working with you this year. Those of you who are returning, again, I look forward to seeing your friendly face, even if it's behind a mask. You can see my eyes again this year. And I think that's it. And, we're having back to school night, so I'll be having another presentation then. And that's actually coming up pretty quickly, which is not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday. So Ms. Alfonso, you want to translate my closing comments?
Sure. So señor Wally dice que había preguntas específicas sobre la merienda durante el día y las computadoras. Claro, esas preguntas son más específicas que ustedes pueden preguntar a sus maestras durante el regreso de back to school. Apropiadamente con sus maestras. Claro que si hay cualquier duda y tiene preguntas, claro que puede contactar al señor Wally en su correo electrónico, y también esta presentación está grabada, por tanto usted tendrá la oportunidad de oír la presentación otra vez, pero estará en nuestro website en el jueves próximo. Por tanto, tenemos que tener un poquito de tiempo para hacer la parte de tecnología. Muchísimas gracias y pasa bien la noche.
All right, and unfortunately, I'm going to do a quick encore because I just saw a couple questions here that I did want to answer. One is when to return the packet and to whom. So I did get some parents saying they love that we stapled a packet together and said return all this, so they knew exactly what to return. So that is Evelyn Marmolejos, our secretary. You can send it in with your child on the first day. So that's how you return that packet. Okay, make sure it's all complete.
El paquete que usted recibió en el correo, para esa información, usted puede devolverá esa información el primer día de la escuela. Y gracias a la señora Marmolejos que tomó cuenta de esa papelada toda.
And also there's a parent here who said her child has an injury and has a doctor's note. Do they bring this with them on the first day? I have to let you know, my daughter broke her arm this summer, second week of camp. And I was like, no. So we had the same thing. We reached out to our school nurse. Luckily, she got her cast off just last week. But you can definitely bring it the first day, or you can email our nurse, Nurse Lisa, how do you say her last name? Gialone, right? Maybe Mrs. Richardson can type it in the chat. I don't know. But you can write to me as well if you want, and I'll send it to the nurse. And she's super nice. She'll reach out to you, and we'll make sure that if your daughter needs any accommodations for writing or anything like that, we'll make sure she has that, and she can be, excused from gym and that kind of thing.
So, en caso que su hijo o hija tiene cualquier cosa como una pierna partida o un brazo partido, claro, nosotros podemos saber esa información que necesita. Cosas especiales por ella, puede contactar la escuela o la enfermera de la escuela, que es señora Lisa Gianalone. Es muy difícil de pronunciar y señora Richardson escribió eso en el chat. So, esa es la enfermera de la escuela. So, cualquier cosa que tiene pregunta, puede preguntar a ella también.
All right. And lastly, one parent asked, what can I do to get my kid ready for school? Just tell them it's going to be fun. The great thing about elementary school is you have a teacher that's with your child all day. Our teachers go out of their way to make your children feel comfortable, to have a great experience. Just tell them they don't have to do anything but be themselves, and just look forward to a new day, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. So, ¿cómo puedo preparar mi hijo o hija para el primer día? Dijen que todo va a estar bien, que van a pasar un día muy bien con las maestras, todo va a correr bien y que estamos a espera de ellos y vamos a disfrutar durante el día.
All right. Good night, everyone. Buenos noches. Have a great night. And again, email me with any questions. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And thank you to my co-host, Mrs. Alfonso, E&L teacher, and Mrs. Richardson, first grade teacher and first grade team lead. Thank you for your co-hosting. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mrs. Alfonso, don't forget to end your recording as well. Actually, I'm going to end my recording. Hold on. Here we go. Here. Stop recording.